Hi beauties, it's Jessie here. So today we're going to go over the differences of warm and cold sugaring. I get a lot of questions about this, and I get a lot of concerned estheticians who've warm sugared forever that misunderstand cold sugaring. First, let's go over a little bit of the history. So cold sugaring has been around for thousands of years. So when you're taught as a professional that sugaring in general has been around since 1900 BC, that type of sugar was a cold paste. So thousands of years ago, they didn't have warmers, let alone razors or wax. Wax came last. And for some reason, that's become the standard in the aesthetics industry. So cold sugaring is the oldest form of sugaring. Now, warming it a little or having different kinds of paste, the pastes used to come out random formula types. When people make them at home or when they were made thousands of years ago, they really would have had to make it a lot to get it consistent. So that's one of the biggest differences between the home pastes and the professional pastes. They're a very consistent formula, although some companies still have a lot of trouble with consistency. Our new manufacturing setup makes our formula extremely stable and consistent. Okay, so let's show you. This is a warm paste from an anonymous sugaring line. I had to warm it up in an unconventional way, so I'm going to make sure it's not too warm. That's about right. Okay, so it's warmed and ready to go in the traditional way warm sugar is. So first of all, warm sugar has to be molded 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now, I never liked that about warm paste. It's also really sticky. When you get started, it's easy to get stuck. That's really hard for new sugarists to learn, okay? So this is not the softest. This is warmed up. This would be, this brand that I got to make this video has 4 types. So there's soft and a step up from that, and then 2 more that are even firmer. This felt the most like a regular paste to me. So I'm just gonna keep sugaring away here. So you have to aerate warm sugar, and it's a lot gooier, a little more out of control, okay, than cold paste. Now keep in mind, warm sugarists, I warm sugared for 8 years, and I used all the major brands that were out there, not just a little bit, for 2 to 4, 5 years at a time. I used all the professional pastes that I could find out there. So I'm not inexperienced in using different kinds of sugars, okay? So this paste pretty soon is gonna cool down, and then what happens is it starts stiffening up, okay? So let's just keep going here. And so what you're gonna find is if you don't mold 3 times, warm sugar is not gonna pick the hair up completely. It's gonna leave patchy removal. One thing you eliminate with cold sugar is you can mold 1 to 2 times, speeds your services way up. I've had many estheticians tell me, I don't have to mold as much, and it actually picks up the hair. But the other sugars I used that were warm, I could not do that. Maybe when the sugar's really warm in the beginning, you can mold twice for some of it, but certainly not as it stiffens up. So now it's stiffening. So now this is harder on my hand. This is starting to get harder for me to mold. What it also does is creates a higher incidence of pulling hair. When your sugar paste stiffens up, and this isn't even halfway, through my service, And you can mix softer formulas and firmer formulas, and what I'm telling you will still apply, because the softest formulas are not the same as a cold paste. And there's not just our professional cold paste company. There's actually home care companies that have been around for years that make cold paste. But at home, if you're looking at this and you're a DIYer, do not attempt certain services regularly at home. You're gonna see problems where with a Brazilian or an underarm or certain areas that are tender, you're gonna bruise yourself and make a big mess. Either that or you're gonna be doing booger pieces where you're doing little tiny pieces all over. So professional sugaring covers everything in a very set fashion. So it's going to cover everything more completely in sections as you work. So as this warm paste stiffens up, you're gonna have to adjust it more. So you're gonna have to put soft paste, or you're gonna have to put more of the warmed formula in here to keep it picking up hair. A lot of it will get so stiff that it's hard to work with. Even when I mixed in softer formulas, I had trouble with all of the ones I used. So with cold sugar, there's less adjustments. And the reason is it starts cool, so it's a little stiffer, but it still glides and does not hurt your hand. So it still glides on, it's easy to glide on. You know, it's more work on your hand to thumb twirl constantly with warm paste and mold 3 times everywhere. Molding is what tires your hand out, and thumb twirling. So my girls at my spa had 6 of them, and they'd used warm paste for 2-3 years when we came out with our cold paste. Every single one of them told me they're not having hand cramps anymore. So if you have a question about cold sugar because it's colder and stiffer and it seems like it'll tire your hand out, you are oh so wrong. The cold sugar is much more beneficial to your joints in your hands. So let's put this down. So this is starting to stiffen up. This is actually a great warm paste, and there's plenty of warm paste. I thought that for what they were made for, they were good formulas. So I don't poo-poo the warm formulas. And the warm paste is what was it was originally professionalized. Just the warm method. There was no cold method out there, which is unfortunate because you gain a lot of benefits, and it's still sugaring. You could learn cold sugar, warm sugar. You can pick up a cold or warm sugar if you know how to sugar, and use any paste you want. Okay, next thing, the color. So the dark color, which we're now going to get out our other paste, our fabulous cold paste, and I'm going to show you the difference. So the cold sugar, and I have to look down here to get my gloves and my paste. You can see the soft is my favorite at home. So we're gonna get the same size ball. So this is cold, this is not warmed. Now keep in mind, if your room is freezing, it's 50 or 60 degrees overnight. That's like putting your cold sugar in a refrigerator. Don't ever try to use frozen sugar. You should keep a sugar warmer around, even with cold paste. If you're doing sugaring full time, you're gonna need it because of the winter. Unless you're in a tropical place that just never gets below 70, okay? It needs to be 70 degrees all the way up to 80, and a lot of the formulas will be fine, but soft, you're gonna be melting down in 80 degrees. Okay, so cold sugar starts out firmer, but see how this is gliding on? This is the same consistency as that warm paste was after using it a few minutes. Now, if you grab the firm or the original or the wrong paste for what you're doing, or you're not warming it enough in the morning and it's 50 degrees, you're gonna wonder what's going on. So that's one mold. I'm flicking good today because it's going on to the back of my hand. Okay. This poor arm is gonna get over sugared. So you can mold twice on stubborn hair, short hair, or first time hair that's transitioning, that's not coming out, but it's only 1 to 2 times with cold paste. The one exception is don't be afraid to mold 3 times if you've got super deep, you know, stubborn, short, like facial, you know, those little chin hairs that we get. So you can put it on and let it sit and seep wherever it's being stubborn. Okay, this paste is warmed up now. See how it's nice and flexible? This paste will not start to stiffen up. It's easier on your hand because you do less fiddling with it. Because it's cool, you do not thumb twirl all the time. You do not mold 3 times. You're gonna save your hands and get rid of your hand cramps, okay? And if you've heard that cold sugaring is not sugaring, that's not true. Cold sugaring is a much older form of sugaring than warm sugaring. Warm sugaring is the modern day sugaring. I like the most traditional way to sugar because it had benefits that I thought were a miracle to me. I thought it was a miracle that you didn't have to mold as much. I thought it was a miracle that you didn't have to thumb twirl. Also, something that was brought to my attention by my estheticians was the color that we were just talking about. The ones that I showed warm sugar, so I had a whole crew that was warm sugar transition to cold, and they were very complimentary. And then I had a whole crew who started on cold, and then I showed them warm, and all of them squealed and said, "Oh my gosh, you can see the hair building up in that stuff. It's clear." And I said, you know what? I didn't even think about that because for so many years I used that light colored sugar, and we'll get into why that sugar is that light. There's actually, in my opinion, not a great reason why it's got no color, okay? So we'll get right into that. This paste is organic. 100% organic, fresh ingredients. So this is organic cane sugar, which is the best form of sugar if you can get it organic. And organic sugar contains all of its molasses. Okay, yum, 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 yum. So there's also a big debate with our company, which we've taught from the very beginning, so our certified estheticians are not confused. Our sugar contains molasses naturally. We had so many questions the first year we launched about why our sugar was so dark that we actually added the molasses to our ingredients so people would no longer be confused about why it has this dark brown color. All organic sugars will be darker. They may be varying shades of dark, but the reason they look molasses colored is because organic sugar contains it naturally. So when you have a white sugar, any sugar that's clear yellow is white sugar that has been gone through a man-made process which bleached it white. Not bleach that they use, but they put it through a chemical process. So that destabilizes that ingredient on a chemistry level, and I'll get into that soon. So also, we don't use citric acid. Citric acid is a citrus derivative. It doesn't always come from lemons, although you can get lemon citric acid. Citric acid also goes through a man-made chemical process to be turned into, you know, a powder that is citric acid, basically, which is a preservative in some skincare products. That's not a bad ingredient. The old citric acid, it's in sodas too. But unfortunately, every ingredient that goes through a chemical process before it's made into sugar, it destabilizes that ingredient. So when you put it through a process and then you put it through another process to cook it into sugar, you have problems with those pastes will crystallize more easily. And this is just chemistry, folks. It's not, you know, it's purely from a chemistry point of view. So the clearer the sugar, the less likely it's super stable, which shocked me because normally organic ingredients are not as stable. The reason is they are not in their natural form. So when you cook a organic sugar with real organic lemon juice, so we do use a California grown pasteurized lemon juice to make sure that it doesn't have any bacteria to start, even though it's pasteurized again during cooking. We want to make sure that those ingredients are food grade and really clean when we make our paste. So the organic lemon juice is very important, and you get a different consistency when you use real lemon juice versus citric acid, okay? So another thing that never made me happy, I'm a health nut and I'm all for the environment, and I don't support GMOs. They make me personally sick, and I know what they do to the environment and how the ingredients are grown. I am more of an organic person, and 70% of our ingredients are organic in our skincare line. A lot of the products are 100% organic wherever they can be. Any ingredients that are natural that I use are grown in an organic way, without pesticides, without secretive man-made chemical processes, you know, being snuck in there. So that's really important to me as a company owner, and I don't want to put a product out in the world that's using hundreds of pounds of GMO sugar. I don't support that industry, okay? And you know, if you do, I have nothing against you. That's just one of my personal passions. So heating, cold sugar needs no heat. This is after no heat, okay? So now this is gliding just fine, and you can mold quickly, just like you can with warm sugar. 1, 2, just to show you a few molds. But see how it holds together better? It's not goopy and stringy, and you know, that's how they are, the warm ones, because they're warm. There's just, no matter what they are, they're always going to be warm and have certain characteristics, okay? So warm sugar has to be heated. It's not mobile, okay? It can be mobile if you can plug in a sugar warmer somehow, okay? But it's not as mobile. It has to be warmed. It's usually too warm to start, and you have to aerate it, is what a lot of the sugarists say. I didn't like that part. I didn't like it started too hot, and I'm going into a Brazilian, I'm ready to get going, go wherever I want to start my sections and not get stuck and worry about how hot it is. And you get used to it with warm sugars, but I didn't like that. So when I eliminated that with this paste, I was like, wow. Okay, so it stays pliable, which we've been talking about. See how this is nice and pliable? So as you use it, it keeps this consistency. The only thing that'll change it drastically is if someone has so much dense hair that literally there's a ball of hair in there that's so large that it becomes ropey, okay? So sugar for each service, cold uses less sugar. The reason is you're more likely to need an adjustment with warm sugars. So I was taught that you could use one ball through the whole service with warm, but after 8 years of warm sugaring with multiple brands, I found that during certain services, the sugar would stop picking up hair because it stiffened up. If any of you have used firm sugar and tried to sugar something with your sugar too firm, you know that it picks the hair up patchy. So what would happen with my warm pastes is they would stiffen up partway through the service, especially in the winter time, and I was mixing correctly. We're talking 8 years here. And I could not get the sugars to last through the service for a lot more of my services than cold. So you use less sugar because you're not putting more sugar into your ball. You don't necessarily have to throw away your ball with warm sugar, but you'd have to swap out half your ball. Okay, and let's see, getting unstuck. So with cold sugar, there's more options. The main option is when you have a warm tub of paste, you can't take warm sugar and put it over the top of a stuck piece. So with cold sugar, you can take a piece of cold sugar and stick it right on top of the piece that's stuck and overheated. It'll instantly cool it down and remove it from their skin. And that was like a miracle because it made getting unstuck really easy, really, really easy. And let's see. So speed sugaring, cold sugar for me is much faster. It beats waxing. I did 5-minute Brazilian. I don't know if I said that earlier. I did a 5-minute Brazilian just on Tuesday. I did one of my clients. Sometimes I'm dawdling a little and talking to her, but I focused just to see, and it took me 5 minutes to remove all her hair. That never happened with wax. You have to put the hard wax on, let it dry, go back to your wax pot. I'm sorry, but when you can just, go boom, 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 boom with your sugar and not have to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, it's faster. So warm took longer than waxing in a lot of cases, not only for me, but for my estheticians. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. It had to be adjusted. It would get stiff and start picking up hair patchy. It would have a lot of these things I just didn't expect to improve at all when I made cold sugar, by the way. These were all like, what? I can't believe that this sugar does all this. And I was so excited. And so I think some of the industry has taken offense to that. But the truth is, this is a sugar formula that, to me, and this is my opinion, was building a better mousetrap. And so I went against the grain, so to speak, and professionalized cold sugar. Cold sugar's been around in the retail market for years. Don't get twisted about it. Cold sugar is not just invented by me. It's been around since 1900 BC. It's been in the retail market, but at home, I just don't believe people are using it the same way that professionals do. I don't think that no one can learn at home. I just don't recommend people do. Go to your professional. So, cold formula just was not professionalized until we came along. So we made the first professional cold sugar, and we are proud of it. Not only that, but we made it 100% organic and really healthy for you in the environment. A lot of our product, like the 100% elixir that goes along with it, is also 100% organic. New sugarists. I explained this a little bit earlier. This is our last item. New sugarists, it shocked me because I taught a lot of girls in my spa. I mean, at least 15 or 20 over 8 years. I had my crew that stayed with me years, but I had some that came and went after a year or two, and some of them, went out and started their own sugaring businesses, and they're really successful, and I'm proud of them. So, new sugarists, easy to hold. I don't have sugarists in class dropping the sugar on the floor accidentally because they can't figure out the thumb twirl and the sugar's too goopy. That's a warm sugar problem. I have had students who tried to warm sugar, they gave up, they came to our class and said, this is so easy to use. I've had it said over and over again. So I'm a believer because of the feedback that we've gotten. Our clients love it. Remember, if you are a warm sugar preference, that's all you've done, you like it warm, we got you. Just warm this to 80 degrees, excuse me about the sound there, 80 degrees. It's a running joke that something always happens in my videos. This one's so good too. It's okay, it's real life. So, we've got you, you love warm sugar, put our sugar in your pot really, really low. Remember that warm sugar is 98 degrees, cold sugar is 80 degrees. It is still cold. So it feels not chilly, but it still feels cool to the touch when you're heating it properly. You are not heating it to body temp. If you heat our sugar to body temp, it turns into a perfect strip wax. So let's get into the difference between our sugar being a twofer, and that's a biggie that we missed. So we did miss one item here. Our sugar is a twofer or even a threefer, and that's a clothing term where you can use something 2 to 3 different ways. So I tried this for years. I wanted my warm sugar to work as strip wax because I didn't want to use traditional strip wax anymore because I think sugar is a healthy alternative for our environment. So years and years and years, I tried warm formulas as strip wax, and you had to buy a separate formula that was made for strip waxing with sugar years ago. That's it. That was your choice. It has to be a separate thing. You cannot take their soft and warm it into strip wax. The reason is the soft that they made was designed to turn into sugar paste at 98 degrees. When you go above 98 degrees, you start getting into burn realm. So what you would have to do to get a soft to work that's warm is you would have to heat it hotter than you're supposed to. So it was either carry a whole nother paste or a company that made sugar that worked as wax, or don't do it, just keep traditional strip wax. This is part of why I think more people don't strip wax with sugar. So our soft and our original, when you heat it to 98 degrees, don't do that if you're sugaring. It will turn into strip wax. It'll get real soupy, and it's not because our formulas are more watery. It's not because our formulas are softer. If you feel my soft compared to this company's soft, it's exactly the same consistency. It's all in the ingredient ratios, how it's cooked, and the chemistry. This is a totally different formula. So when you warm our formulas, soft and original, into a strip wax, they work because when you heat them to body temp versus 80 degrees, they turn into a perfect strip wax. And that was another mind-altering experience. I made this stuff, guys, and thought I was gonna choose the jar. I have these 2 jars too. I was gonna choose the jar of conventional sugar that I had used for 8 years. What blew me away was what cold sugar can do, and I want you guys to experience it and have a fantastic experience. Now, if you're new to sugar waxing, which I think this is an unbelievable alternative to strip waxing, you have to prep the skin like you're sugaring, and that's what stops a lot of waxers from using sugars. They try sugars as wax and go, this doesn't work, and it doesn't stick, and it does all. And it's like, it's because you don't know how to sugar and prep the skin for sugar. You don't know that when a client starts sweating, sugar is more temperamental with sweat than pine sap and plastic. So there's a couple of things you have to be aware of when you're waxing with it, but if you get those things down, you're gonna be in heaven because you get a lot of the benefits of less pain, you get less ingrowns. Clients will compliment you if you switch even as a strip wax, okay? So you can take the soft and use it on large areas that are less hot and sweaty, warm that up to 98 degrees, use it as your wax. You can take the original and use that on sensitive, sweaty areas. So faces, underarms, Brazilians, bikinis. Sometimes soft will work too, but it can get a little sticky, a little too sticky for the watery areas. All right, love you guys. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification. And in the comments, please tell me what you'd like to see next. I'm making videos every week, Tuesday/Wednesday. You will see a video and maybe even more in between. Surprise! Also, if you're an esthetician, join Esthetician Talk, Natural Sugaring, Natural Skincare and Networking group for estheticians. And I have a Sugar Love certified estheticians and training lounge. So find me on social media. I do giveaways a lot. I do free education a lot. I have 17 years of hair removal and skin experience. I'm also an acne survivor. I had stage 3 acne and I've been clear, you know, besides the occasional, if I do enough to my skin, I get like one of the tiniest little pimples, you know, but that's because I'm prone. So I have a ton of experience. And don't forget, we're a big part of the Skin Games now every year, and that's coming up June this summer. And we need 2 more contestants for speed sugaring and 1 more for skincare. If you don't get it this year, the next year we'll do it again. Love you guys.